Hello, Diane. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here today, inviting me.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. Well, today we're going to have a light conversation, and I would like to start for you to tell us who are you, what is your role in OpenShift, and yeah, just introduce yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Diane Mueller, and I've been with Red Hat almost 4 years now, and I'm the Director of Community Development for OpenShift, and I'm the person behind the OpenShift Commons, which we'll talk a little bit about today. And I've been a developer for nearly 30 years on all different kinds of work, from financial Python applications to ERP systems to 3D design and development, all kinds of fun stuff. And now I am happily herding cats in the community of OpenShift and across our ecosystem. So I've done a lot of different projects in my day.
Well, thank you. Also, you mentioned Python. I think what is your Twitter handle? I think there's something related to that, right?
Oh, it's a fun one. I have Python DJ, which takes a little
Oh,
explaining. As I said, I'm a Python programmer and developer from way back, and I was a DJ at college, so there was a little bit of that in there. But also when Twitter came on, started back in the day, like how many years ago now? 4 years ago, I was also deeply in love with Python's framework for websites and that called Django. So it was a little bit of Python Django play going on there.
okay, I see. Well, that's perfect. So everyone that is watching this video can find the link here, so you can check Diane's Twitter account, and you're going to be able to share a lot of her information about OpenShift Commons, and all the projects that she's working on. Also, you mentioned something really important, and that's kind of like the core of why we're having this conversation. That was OpenShift Commons. So for anyone who has not any previous idea about what is OpenShift Commons. Can you tell us what it is?
So Commons is basically it's a new model of open source community, and what we've done is created a space and for collaboration where users of OpenShift and partners, customers, and contributors and developers can come together and collaborate and work on OpenShift and the projects that we upstream into OpenShift, like Kubernetes and Docker, and work on the Ansible scripts. But it's also a step beyond the old school model for community open source communities, where it was really focused on just code contribution. Here, what we're trying to do is get the whole feedback loop and best practices loop, and everybody talking across the different open source projects that upstream into OpenShift. Specifically, OpenShift 3 was a big culture shift from a Ruby Rails MongoDB-based application platform to a new sort of cloud application platform based on containers and using Kubernetes. What we had was this huge um, shift. Yeah, I can keep using the word shift in our architecture, but also in the scale at which our platform now could host and deploy and manage applications. So we decided that we had to do something different because the um, ecosystem was expanding rather rapidly, and we couldn't do one-on-one briefings for everybody, and we couldn't, do skin scrapings and clone all of the evangelist teams and the product managers. We needed to really have a very strong virtual connection with the entire community. So Commons is a bit about how to build those connections and how to do that collaboration and how to make sure that we have a strong communication line to all the different parts of the ecosystem.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for that answer. And I have another question, of course. Who can join the OpenShift Commons?
Well, it's open to anybody. It's really the focus has been on organizations joining. So like open source projects, partners, um, organizations that have deployed OpenShift. Some of the bigger ones being like NASA, Symantec just joined last week. They did an awesome OpenStack presentation at OpenStack Tokyo, and they had been deployed OpenShift Origin, unbeknownst to us. That's also some of the reason for Commons existing is that what we're trying to do is reach out to all the people who have just downloaded and started using OpenShift Origin so that we can get them in connection with folks like the people who are running OpenShift online behind the scenes and share some of the best practices back and forth. So anyone can join. It's all about building connections across the communities and the projects and all the different stakeholders. We really have right now, I think we have 160 members, organizations, and an organization only has to join once, and then everybody from that organization can participate in the commons. So we do like to keep people up to date as best as we can, and we like them to self-identify by the organization that they're with, so that everybody knows who's talking to who, because we've got lots of different customers from all different parts of the different markets, like telcos and banks and government agencies. So there's a good mix of people in there, and there's also a good mix of hosts and ISVs, people who are using OpenShift Enterprise or OpenShift Origin to host a public cause. So we've got really some very interesting conversations that are happening, and it's pretty much open to anyone who's interested in OpenShift, who's deploying OpenShift, doing a POC on OpenShift, and as well as to anyone who's working on some of the projects that we upstream, like Kubernetes and Docker, into our project. So we try and cover all the bases, and I think that's kind of why it's such a vibrant conversation that goes on inside of the Commons.
Okay, thanks. There is something that kind of like popped several times when you were talking, and I think perhaps it's quite important that everyone that is checking this video kind of like know about. Can you tell us a little bit about what is OpenShift Origin? You mentioned it several times, and you mentioned open source. And so we have OpenShift, we have OpenShift Commons, we have OpenShift Origin. What is Origin?
So Origin is the name of the open source project that is OpenShift. So Commons is the name of the community that we built. So other people will talk about a foundation or some other organization. We decided to call what we do a Commons. We felt a little bit more open and less gatekeepery. And OpenShift Origin, we talk about three flavors of OpenShift. OpenShift Origin being the open source project, OpenShift Online being the hosted Red Hat backed public platform as a service offering that we have, and OpenShift Enterprise being, of course, the flagship product that Red Hat has that's based on OpenShift Origin. So the thing to remember is that the code goes into Origin first. It's an open source community, and it's Apache 2 license, and we do everything out in the open, very transparent. You can check our Trello roadmaps for all of the new features and the hopeful features and the things that we're working on right now. You can see pretty much every pull request, merge right in GitHub for OpenShift Origin. So if you go into GitHub at OpenShift/Origin, you'll get all of the V3 or the latest version of OpenShift, as we call it, OpenShift 3. But it is definitely one of the premier transparent open source projects out there for cloud applications platforms.
Okay. Well, actually, that's a great explanation. I have heard several times this explanation of Origin and all that, and I think I really like this one, so thanks for that. So Diane, which notable members do you have right now in OpenShift Commons?
Well, I already mentioned that NASA joined the OpenShift Commons a while back, which was really cool. And we have lots of longtime members like Get Up Cloud that are running a public pause down in Brazil. But we also have folks like Seagate and NetApp and Fujitsu and what's the name of the Swiss railway company is using it. SPD, I think, is their acronym. There's lots of folks that I probably should be mentioning. We've had some great Commons briefings over the past year. We've tried to do about one a week, and it turned out to be about one every other week with people's busy schedules. And I think that one of the most memorable ones, probably even just a couple weeks ago, Crypterion did a great one on security as a service. And, that's one of the things I think everybody worries about in the cloud. And they did a great walkthrough of all the different pieces and parts of the layers of security you can add and where you should watch for stuff. And it was more than, it wasn't architecture. It was a great talk. A few weeks before that, Six Fusion did a great session on metering and monitoring containers that I really liked a lot. And one of my favorite ones, Mark Taransky, did a wonderful one. I think it was on storage and networking on OpenShift, and he's a Red Hatter. And there's always, when Clayton Coleman comes on and talks, everyone listens because he's deep in the Docker and Kubernetes world and has been really key to the OpenShift team getting the architecture done. So Clayton's talks are always really awesome. But this is one of those projects that every time I go to a conference, someone else comes up to me and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've deployed OpenShift on OpenStack, like the semantics folks did at OpenStack Tokyo." And that's one of the wonderful things is that we just really don't, we're not tracking every single download of OpenShift Origin, and you can take the code because it's open source and use it as you will. And it's been wonderful, this past couple of years working with this project because we've gotten to go, I think the guys are doing a roadshow in Moscow this week. There was a 30-city roadshow tour, and they took, OpenShift 3 around the world, and every venue that they went to, every city they went to, there was another OpenShift origin story. And, I know Red Hat is, loves to tout the commercial side of things, OpenShift Enterprise, but as the community development person, I'm always pleasantly surprised when OpenShift Origin shows up in some of the bigger venues. I'm sure Red Hat likes to think of it as the gateway drug to OpenShift Enterprise, or to now OpenShift dedicated nodes, which is OpenShift 3 running hosted and managed by Red Hat. But the beauty of the open source project is that everything happens first in OpenShift, and the contributors are coming in from all over the place. And now with the new container-based approach to things, extending OpenShift has gotten even easier. You basically build a good Docker image, a reusable one, hopefully using STI, our framework for building images to make them ready to run and easily reproducible and reusable. And then you have, any Docker image can basically run now on OpenShift. And I think, Commons is one of those places where all of the different projects meet and talk about how, they can work together better, and where the OpenShift use cases get examined closely so that they can get incorporated into some of the upstream projects like Kubernetes and Docker. And it's going to be really interesting, I think, upcoming in the next month or two to see where the whole now Microsoft.NET partnership takes us. Because it's been a long time since I really booted up Visual Studio and started playing with Visual Studio apps. But I think this is now going to be the new frontier, and bringing in 6 million developers from the Microsoft.NET world into the Linux world will be a wonderful way to do more than reach a 150 member organization milestone. So we're really counting on being able to educate and bring in the Microsoft community and help them understand how open source communities work. It's going to be notable. There's lots of notable things happening in this Commons area.
Yeah, I can tell. And well, it's great that everything is like so active and so vibrant. So I think it's really great to see the community moving in that direction. Perhaps I have like two last questions for you. Like, what if a partner wants to collaborate in one of the briefings? What do they have to do?
Well, actually, the real push is this first year I think we had a preponderance of Red Hat talkers because we had so much to talk about in terms of the new architecture and educating. And the push in 2016 will be to try and get as close as to 100% of those briefings being done by partners, contributors, people with interesting use cases from outside of Red Hat, talking about their projects, talking about their best practices for deployments. And if you check out the Commons briefing page, you'll see that already most of the stuff that's set up and scheduled for January and February, they are external talks. And so if you are interested, if you're a contributor or a user or a partner, an ISV or a hoster that has some interesting topic or a topic that they want feedback, and that was actually one of the really useful things is if you have a new project coming out and you'd like feedback from the community on maybe the usability of it, the functionality, the feature set, the Commons briefings is a great way to present it, even if it's only alpha, and get it in front of a large swath of people and get that feedback maybe before you go GA with something that's missing a widget that everybody wishes was there. So please just reach out. You can reach me at dmueller@redhat.com or as Diego pointed out, at Python DJ, but there's also a Twitter handle for OpenShift Commons, which is OpenShift Common without the S on the end. And just reach out and we will see what we can do to get you on the radar and in front of this wonderful, very vociferous group of people. So if you want feedback or you want to reach out and find out more about what's going on in the community or what people in the community think, it's a great way. I highly encourage you to present your case to this community.
That's right. So right now, any parting thoughts like to share with the entire community?
Well, I think the emphasis on is that this is a pretty vibrant open source community. It's a new model, so we're testing the limits of it. It's a pretty huge ecosystem of contributors, developers, engineers, as well as people who are operators and hosts of OpenShift and people who are adding value on top of it, extending it with their services. So it's an amazing network to get involved in. I highly encourage everyone who's interested in doing it, whether you're internal to Red Hat or external to Red Hat, or someone who's working on a platform as a service offering of your own, rather than reinventing the wheel, come join us and build one together with us. I think the days of DIY platform architectures inside of enterprises are probably over, and that's the beauty of open source. If you're working on a project, if there's probably one already being built out there, you want to probably come to one that's got a nice, vibrant ecosystem and group of developers working on it. And I think OpenShift really is probably the best place to be working on cloud application platforms and this whole application lifecycle conundrum. How to do it well in production at scale, and make it so that it is manageable and that operations has an easy task, and it makes a wonderful, smooth workflow for developers. So this has been, a great opportunity for me to really get to reach out and to connect with everybody. And I'd like to make sure that everyone gets to connect with each other. So think of this as a huge open source peer-to-peer network for people who are like-minded about how applications should be deployed in the cloud.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time, Diane. I really love this conversation, and I'm quite certain that soon we're going to have many more around OpenShift Commons, about open source and many other topics that are like hot right now inside the OpenShift community and, well, the technology community as a whole. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Diego.